It's not going.
There we go.
There we go.
Cool.
All right. So we are on air recording. We're good. Okay.
Is there a way to look at audio here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's recording.
Okay. So welcome to today's webinar. I am with my colleague Zach, who actually just finished his first marathon in Chicago for Team Empower. So he's now officially one of us. So he can relate to all of your aches and pains and the exhaustion that you're feeling right now. We're recording this webinar, so hopefully you guys will listen to it later. But we really wanted to share with you where all those dollars are going that you're raising. We obviously share a lot of the heartwarming stories with you, but it's really important for you as donors to understand how we are actually going out into the community and deciding which children should have the surgery and how this whole process actually works. So behind the scenes. And Zach actually sits right behind me, so he hears a lot about you guys. And he was very gracious to offer some of his time to do this webinar. And this is really for you guys to learn more about Smile Train, but you know, you can reach out to us about questions you may have about this webinar, and hopefully we'll do some more in the future. And with that said, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, so as Sarah mentioned, I just finished the Chicago Marathon, and I think part of the reason I decided to do that was to give myself a better understanding of where some of our fundraising dollars come from and some of the stuff that people go through to help us execute our mission. And I found that it was extremely difficult. And in that sense, I think it really gave me an appreciation for the hard work that some of our donors and supporters put in for us. So with that in mind, I just wanted to extend a thank you from the Smile Train program staff and let you guys know that you know, the work that you guys do really doesn't go unnoticed. So we're very grateful for that. Sarah, do you know if this bar here is showing up? Oh, I can look at
No, it doesn't show on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So I'll just start by move. What's that? Sorry.
You can put it down so it doesn't block your.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. So I'm our manager of medical programs. I'm primarily responsible for overseeing our safety and quality initiatives and working with our medical advisory board. So none of the people we have on staff are medical doctors, but a lot of what we do touches the medical realm, obviously requires a great deal of technical expertise. So for that, we rely heavily on our medical advisory board, which is comprised of senior surgeons and anesthesiologists and sort of cleft professionals based here in the United States, and then one who represents our China board and another who represents our India board. And they really are they sort of lend their credibility and their expertise to the work that we do. And they're very, very active, and they do everything they do on a totally on a volunteer basis. So without the dedication of these folks, we wouldn't be able to enact our mission. So, you know, I say that I'm primarily responsible for our safety and quality. In reality, our program management is very decentralized and extends to, you know, a number of regional managers who have a very intimate knowledge of the countries that they represent and have built those programs in a lot of ways from scratch. So they know, they're intimately familiar with the partners that do our surgeries. And in that sense, you know, there's a certain amount of hands-on medical oversight that really can't be delegated to the New York office. So in a very sort of direct sense, the safety and quality of our surgeries is everybody's responsibility. And, you know, that's based on the fact that we work with these independent centers. We have a true partnership model that allows that decision-making and that oversight to be delegated to the partners and then to our medical staff and then to us. So it sort of flows, directly from the partners themselves. And, you know, really my role here is to coordinate the information and sort of standardized process between field staff and the surgeons that we support to ensure adherence to our medical standards. which are really represented and embodied by the Safety and Quality Protocol, which is, one of the probably the guiding programmatic document that we have that specifies our minimum standards of height and weight, the infrastructural and equipment that stuff that we expect to be present at all of our partner centers. That's written by one of the anesthesiologists who sits on our board. One challenge inherent to our model is that we work all over the world, and there's a really wide range of hospitals that we work with, from some of the just like these world-class centers with tons of money and tons of resources in places like Brazil and China, all the way to countries where there are just a couple of plastic surgeons in the entire country working in a variety of different hospitals. So these standards are intended to develop a baseline and enforce what we see to be the minimum safety and quality requirements. But what's actually available to our partner centers can vary considerably from place to place. So we have to kind of balance our expectations and keep that in mind, while also making sure that we never compromise on the safety and quality of our patients. I'm also in charge of our patient medical records database, which houses all of the surgeries that we've done pretty much since inception. Right now it's got over 1 million records in it, which makes it essentially the largest repository of cleft information in the world. It's accessible from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And an early challenge that we encountered was that, especially in 2001 or whenever the database was first used, some of that connectivity was a real issue for partners in certain parts of the world. So we had to develop an offline application that allows partners to build medical records and then upload them whenever they have internet access. We recently transitioned to an online model as well, but we also maintain that offline model for places where that access is not prevalent. So it actually is a pretty good representation of how we've been flexible since we started. I would say that increasingly our partners have internet access. It's actually increasingly rare to see that sort of disparity, but it still exists. I would say primarily in places in sub-Saharan Africa. It's also tied totally to our reimbursement structure. So basically, we partner with these hospitals, they perform the surgeries that we support, and then the way that they indicate to us, the number of surgeries that they've done is that they create these records and upload them to the system. They include all of the patient information, history, biodata on the parents and the patients themselves, and then all of the information about the actual surgery that was done, including before and after photos that help us, ensure that surgery actually took place. So in this sense, it's really kind of the lifeblood of SmileTrain's model. Without this platform, there would be no way for us to scale our programs from 0 to 1 million over time. And we really did see before the system was in place, we were doing intake of paper records from the field, and we were really only working with a few thousand records a year. And then the exponential growth that we see today and the way that our programs operate is very much tied to the way that the system has helped us to scale our programs. Totally available to all of our partners. Actually, it's a requirement. So as soon as they're signed up, they go to SmileTrainExpress.org, and then they start making those records. I've talked mostly about this, but right, it's totally it's what's our reimbursement model is based on. The registration for contact information and oversight. This is how we manage our understanding of where the hospitals are, what surgeons are working there. If any surgeons leave or come on board, we register them in the system, and then we monitor them for their quality, which I'll say a little bit more about coming up. And like I said, record storage it's actually very handy for our marketing departments to have access to all these records. They get a lot of requests from parents who've adopted kids from other countries, and they want to know if the kids had cleft surgery through Smile Train. And actually, the overwhelming likelihood is that they did, because no one does more surgeries than us. It's just not always easy to find those records when they don't know exactly where the hospital was, or a lot of times there's some little discrepancies in transcription of the way the patient's name was, especially in China, like anglicized names. There's no standard spelling, so they might be entered one way and they know it to be spelled a different way. Sometimes they don't even know the exact date of birth, so there's a lot of discrepancy that we deal with when we get those requests. Two avenues of oversight. One is for our reimbursement purposes. So, really try to make good on the hard work that you guys do and make sure that the reimbursement is handled in the most stringent way possible. We really want to make sure
Muted.
the
Unmuted.
yeah. Okay, no problem. So so the reimbursement, the oversight there is done. A lot of it is automated, but we have a number of software parameters that check these records and make sure that all the information that's being presented is presented in a consistent way. So, like, the before and after photos are taken in line with the dates that are stated in the record. We have a software that does image comparison to make sure that the photos haven't previously been uploaded, because we don't want to pay partners twice for the same surgery that they've already done. And it's like it's a very robust way to make sure that we spend the money that folks like you guys raise in a responsible way. And then equally important is the quality review, where we have a panel of surgeons who, practicing senior surgeons with a ton of clinical expertise from the United States, who review these records on an ongoing basis and make sure that the quality of the surgeries that they see is consistent with what they expect from cleft care practitioners around the world. Really, we've struck a balance here as well. There's a lot of subjectivity when it comes to the techniques that people use, and depending on people's training, they may prefer one technique over another. So we've had to strike we've put a lot of thought into striking a balance between these guys reviewing the techniques and saying, well, in my clinical experience, I was trained to perform these surgeries a different way, and I believe that the outcomes are optimized if we approach the cleft in this manner. That's actually something that we've really taken to be a subjective call on behalf of the surgeon, and is in some ways also kind of culturally sensitive. So this system is not really put in place for these docs to have a referendum on the techniques that our surgeons use, but they're really looking for a baseline of surgical quality. They want to see outcomes that approximate what they expect in their own training programs, and they want to really see an improvement from before and after. They want these kids to have a better life in a very kind of measurable way. So these are the guys who are attuned to making sure that we can expect that these kids are going to develop in a way that's consistent with what they see in their own practices. And by and large, what we found is that because so many of our surgeons are the guys who are really doing clefts on an ongoing basis in these countries, these results are really consistent with, if not better than, a lot of results that people see in the United States. And I think part of the reason why that is cleft care and reconstructive surgery in this sense is not necessarily the most lucrative avenue to pursue as a plastic surgeon. So a lot of American doctors, if they're like very highly skilled, will go into cosmetic surgery practices, and then will only really do clefts as part of mission programs. They go kind of to these new centers around the world and perform them sort of as a way of giving back, but they're not actually performing cleft surgeries on an ongoing basis all the time in their own practices. That's totally different than what the docs that we support are doing. A lot of times they're doing hundreds of cases a year, and they are the only people in their region that do clefts, and they're taking on all of these free cases. They really are the main people that are performing these surgeries for the entire region. So in that sense, they are, some of the most skilled practitioners in the world. And the quality across regions through this system has been, I think, pretty uniformly excellent according to our QI reviewers. Here are two of the guys who are doing this right now. Dr. Eric Hubley is from Cook County Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas. He actually sits on our medical advisory board and helped to develop the system that we use for quality review. He's really the father of our quality review system. And then Dr. Roberto Flores, who is working at NYU in the city. He is not on our board, but he actually trained with one of the former chairs of our medical advisory board. We also find that, especially academically, cleft and craniofacial surgery as a discipline is a pretty small community. So most of the people who are notable in the field have trained with, people who have some affiliation with SmileTrain or themselves affiliated with SmileTrain. We really, due to the stature of the organization, we managed to attract some of the most decorated and notable practitioners in the field. So in that sense, we're in excellent hands and are really being guided by the true leaders in cleft in the United States. And then also at the bottom, there's this is a short description of the way that our QI review system works. 100% of the cases are reviewed until we establish a baseline of quality when there are new surgeons that come on board. And then once that trial period is passed, then those cases are reviewed less frequently on an ongoing basis. And part of the rationale there is, it's actually not totally, once that baseline of quality has been established, we don't want to, hold these surgeons' hands once we know that they can do the work. And I think that is also, part of sort of the foundation of SmileTrain's model is understanding that there's a basic need for us to ensure that surgical quality, but also trusting these surgeons to make the decisions that they need to make and empowering them to be really the leaders in their field. So, we're not cutting any corners on establishing that baseline of quality, but once we know that these guys are the real deal, we tend to kind of get out of their way and let them do what they need to do with periodic audits along the way to make sure that they're maintaining that quality. Should I show this YouTube video?
Yeah. Okay.
This is a video that Dr. Hubley helped us put together. It's got the old logo. Is that a problem? Okay. So this is this is him in his own words kind of talking about the quality review process and how that works.
Hello, I'm Dr. Eric Hubley, and I'm the Director of Craniofacial and Cleft Care at Cook Children's Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas. I've been involved with the SmileTrain for about 12 years, and during that time, I've come to enjoy my work as a Quality Director at SmileTrain. As an MAB member, I work with SmileTrain to set an international standard in cleft care, as SmileTrain's mission is to empower local medical professionals to provide comprehensive, high-quality cleft care to the millions of children in the world who otherwise would not receive this kind of treatment. It's not enough to just fix kids with clefts. We also have to do it safely and give these kids the highest possible care. You may realize at this point, it may be tough for us to figure out how well our surgeons are doing. Because of that, I developed SmileTrain Express, our quality arm that allows us to see the records and the results of every child treated by the SmileTrain program. Through SmileTrain Express, we can review every case that's done around the world to make sure that the children we serve are getting top-notch care. And if surgeons need a little extra help, we can offer that too. We check and review approximately 10% of the cases that come into SmileTrain. This ongoing review allows us to assure that SmileTrain is giving the highest quality care around the world. To date, I've reviewed over 70,000 cases in 80 different countries. I'm very pleased to report to you that the level of care that I see is outstanding, and the members of Smile Train can be very proud of the results that we are gaining.
Right. Let me just switch back to the PowerPoint here. Just a second. Should I open up to any questions at this point? Or do you want me to just wait till we're all done with that?
Yeah, you can ask if there's, so if there's any questions, you guys can either raise your hand or do the chat box, and we'll get the chat come through. So also undo the attendees.
Attendees?
Yep, under dashboard.
Okay. Why is it? Oh, maybe I should just drag this.
Yeah.
Attendees.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions or anything, you can do the chat box, or you can raise your hand, and you can do that throughout the presentation.
Cool.
So.
All right. So another sort of cornerstone of our treatment and training approach is our Smile Train Virtual Surgery Simulator. So, you know, I'm sure you've heard a lot about the Teach a Man to Fish motto. It's a really like a big part of how we see ourselves as an organization, not only funding the surgeries, but investing in local capacity. But, you know, being so decentralized, working in such a geographically diverse number of regions, we've encountered some challenges about exactly how, you know, what the best way to provide some of that training from a distance is. You know, in 1999, so really at the inception of the organization, we invested in a surgical simulation technology, and we worked with a tech partner called BioDigital to create the first atlas of 3D surgical animated procedures related to cleft. One of the people who was instrumental in this was Dr. Cord Cutting, who is the guy who trained Dr. Flores, who does our quality review and was at one time the chairman of our medical advisory board. He's really one of the pioneers of surgical simulation, and in that sense, you know, this has been a part of Smile Train's foundation and our approach since day one. This atlas of 3D animated procedures was originally on DVDs, and we mailed them out to over 100 countries worldwide based on the requests that we got from practitioners in the field who wanted to use them as training tools for their residents. That turned out to be a pretty inefficient way of disseminating the resource. So since 2012, the surgical simulator has been mapped onto the BioDigital Human, which is a fully digital rendering of the human body, and it's been totally available for anyone to use from anywhere in the world. It's hosted online. Actually, this URL is a little out of date. If anyone is interested in playing around with this, you can actually go to cleftsim.org, and I'll show you now kind of what it looks like. And I always take care to point out that we don't see this as a replacement for a formal hands-on surgical training. It really is just a better way of showing cleft care techniques, than a 2D page on a textbook, which, you know, these techniques are notoriously difficult to render in 2D because you have these flaps that kind of relate to each other.
The is dissected free from the avicularis oris. They are not to...
That's Dr. Flores doing the voiceover. You know, medical students, I think since the dawn of surgery, have struggled to understand the spatial relationship between these different flaps on a page in a 2D representation. But the big advantage of this platform is that not only do you get this, you know, better sense of 3D space, but you can actually hold and rotate the model, and you know, it's just like a quantum leap forward in terms of illustrating the techniques and contributing to the students' understanding. So, you know, in one sense, if if surgeons or practitioners in the field are interested in learning about new techniques, it's much better to start with something like this than it is to read about it in a textbook or see the technique in 2D. You know, they still would begin to practice those techniques under close supervision with a supervising surgeon, which would be no different than what's expected in the United States. But yeah, you know, we find that the people who are interested in using this tool come from all over the place. It's pretty well known in U.S. kind of plastic surgery training programs and residencies. When I go to our, we usually participate in the American Society of Plastic Surgeons Conference, and this is something that we showcase, but we find that most people there have already seen it or used it, especially the DVDs, but they're excited to learn that this is available online for free now. So it's a resource that we're pretty proud of. And our safety and quality protocol, as I alluded to before, this is really just an agreement that our surgeons at partner centers will sign to uphold the basic standards in their provision of care. You know, there are requirements related to safe anesthesia. They are supposed to have specified contingency plans for emergencies, and then the basic standards of surgical quality. And really, you know, what we've said is that the most important thing is for not only for these partners to be fully credentialed in their home countries, but also to be performing CLEPS as part of a regular surgical program. And as I said before, that's one of the big things that sets us apart from mission groups, groups that send doctors from the United States. Really, you know, not only can you provide follow-up care because the practitioners are actually in the communities, but if they're performing CLEPS as part of an ongoing program, this really is their specialty and where they've decided to devote themselves professionally. So that's a really important thing to us. And like I said, that really comes through in our quality review. The medical oversight, as I said, is kind of delegated to a variety of stakeholders, and our regional managers are the eyes and ears of the programs team. And then our processes related to safety and quality are overseen by Dr. Heidi Jerome, who's a pediatric anesthesiologist from Columbia University. She's a really active member of our medical advisory board and, you know, a really crucial voice on behalf of the patient when we discuss our quality processes at our semi-annual meetings. And I'll talk in a little bit more detail about our MAB. Right now we have 9 plastic surgeons, a pediatric anesthesiologist, an orthodontist, and a geneticist. What we strive to do is represent all of the disciplines of a multidisciplinary cleft care team. We're not fully there yet, but really the way that cleft care is kind of supposed to work and the way that it works in the U.S. is that you know, patients will be seen by a group of surgeons or doctors, professionals over time from disciplines like speech therapy, orthodontia. You know, there's usually someone with a psychology background to kind of help the kids or patients manage some of the social aspects of being born with a cleft. So in that sense, it's really important that we not only have plastic surgeons, because while they are the main practitioners and the main people that Sponsoring partner with, they are not the only stewards of those kids' care, and they really only represent one aspect of cleft care. This is an internationally diverse group of people. They're based around the U.S., which is kind of a necessary aspect of being a U.S.-based charity and really dealing mostly in donor funds that come from the U.S. But also we have a surgeon from Sweden, one in China, one in Taiwan, and one in India. The semi-annual meetings in New York City are on all topics related to patient safety, surgical quality, and Sponsoring's relationship to the global medical community. And then future areas of growth could involve including additional anesthesiologists, because we really do use a lot of Heidi's time. It's a really important part of what we do as an organization. and specialties like psychology, nursing, and speech therapy. I've covered a lot of this, but the outcomes for meetings are advisories, any rules that are changed, any things that we decide should require additional oversight. In the interim between those meetings, I'm a big part of the team that helps to turn these advisories and these action items into processes. The MAB is also our representative to the medical community here. They attend professional meetings, they publish on SmileTrain's behalf, and they advocate for SmileTrain's model in panels and speaking opportunities. They are also uniquely positioned to kind of fundraise and raise SmileTrain's profile around their practices, and then also they have unique relationships with medical companies, so they provide us with corporate sponsorship and outreach opportunities. And then really the essence of what they do for us is they weigh in on a day-to-day basis. If we have any technical program related questions, we expect them to be available and to answer all these questions for us as they arise. And in that sense, they're truly charitable with their time because they're incredibly busy people, and their time is very valuable. And yeah, that's basically the end of my main presentation. But yeah, I mean, we can kind of hang out and answer any questions that you guys have about SmileTrain, our model, our safety and quality oversight, and yeah, just really any questions about how you guys can highlight that in your own fundraising.
Again, so if you guys have any questions, you can do the chat or raise your hand. I have a question.
Sure.
You've been here for how many years now?
5.
5.
Yeah.
So what's kind of the biggest overall change in all this that you're proud of? That you're kind of, this is a big change.
One push that we've seen lately, and something that I think is really going to strengthen our programs, is how we can best regionalize some of this medical oversight. So we've actually seen medical advisory boards emerge. We've had them for a long time in India and China, and then we've seen them emerge recently in Brazil and Mexico. So what we're doing really is adding a layer of oversight that is also plugged into the medical community in these countries, and that's a really valuable resource because when this information is shared among those communities, there's a bigger buy-in and a better understanding. Like if we have to circulate a new advisory, it's much more credible and effective if it comes from someone who's a senior medical presence in that country. It's almost as if the local kind of medical association in Brazil is signing off on a medical advisory that SmileTrain is issuing. So it's like this twofold kind of, it really strengthens our credibility, and I think it really helps with surgeon and programmatic buy-in. So I've been working pretty closely with our regional directors to kind of, in a phased way, like roll out some of the regional medical oversight. And then I've really also been a steward of making sure that those boards still answer to our global board, that we don't replace the final sign-off of the main board here in New York. But it's a lot of the issues that pop up on an ongoing basis are very difficult for these like same 10 professionals to weigh in on an ongoing basis. So we're really hoping that we can delegate some of that day-to-day programmatic stuff to some of our regional leaders, and then kind of design processes around, there's a balance to strike. So I've been pretty involved in forming that. But yeah, I mean, one awareness that has really crept in kind of lately is just how proud we can be of our safety and quality, and how much we really can trust the practitioners that we work with to really uphold our standards. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we work with the most active cleft care professionals in the world. So there really is no substitute for people who do this day in and day out and handle a high volume of cases You can be the most prestigious plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills, and if you never do clefts, you're not going to get the results that our partners who work in, remote parts of India and just do clefts, hundreds of cases day in, day out. They're, just by volume, just by practice, are going to get better results. So that's an awareness for me that's crept in, over the last couple of years, and something that I think we can all be really proud of.
Are there any questions? They're probably doing like 500 things at once.
Yeah.
Listening.
No problem. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally available. Sarah will circulate my information. I'm a proud Team Empower alumnus, so I'm not difficult to find. And you guys can look me up online or any questions that you have, please just let me know, and I'm free to answer them anytime you guys want.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, Zach, so much for your time.
My pleasure.
And we will get this out online.
Great. Thanks, guys.